coronavirus has had a considerable impact on how consumers choose to use their banks. With branches shut, they turn to digital banking in numbers never seen before. While this helped the customers, it put additional pressure on bank staff. Saurabh Verma, Financial Services Industry Lead Australia at Avanade, explains how the banks are ensuring everyone involved in the process is getting the best possible service. Thanks for joining us today, Saurabh.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So consumer demand has increased massively as they look to make sense of the financial services when faced with so much job uncertainty. What do banks need to prioritise to help their customers and ensure their staff can cope with the additional pressures?
Yeah, great question. I think the key thing that banks need to focus on at the moment is finding the right balance between having a human touch as well as getting efficiencies from automation. This is an unprecedented time, and a number of their customers are facing significant challenge and need the support. And many institutions have already deployed additional frontline staff to speak with their customers' support and really be empathetic to their customers in this difficult time. Equally, we're also seeing customers who are looking to increase the way in which they engage with their financial institution. And one example we saw earlier in the year was when the stock markets were at low points. We saw a lot of retail trading volumes go up, and that was a lot of first-time investors or people who don't regularly invest go into the market. And one of the recent broking houses saw a 10 times increase in inquiries volume, and most of those inquiries, more than half of them, were people just simply trying to get their username and password because they haven't traded in a while. So you don't want to be at the other end of the phone waiting hours to get that kind of detail. But those who are facing hardship don't want to speak to a robot, and they really need to be supported and be able to engage with a human who can understand the challenge and support them through this difficult time. And that's the balance banks have to strike.
Can banks look for further processes which could be digitised? And what sorts of operations could benefit from this?
So digitisation needs to be more than skin deep. Those who've invested in end-to-end digitised processes, we've seen them scale really well. Some examples around operations and processes are identification and verification, frequently asked questions, self-service capabilities are the obvious ones. But an example around identification and verification is the National Australia Bank. They introduced a program called Voice ID that helps customers be identified when they call up a call centre. And that's reduced the identification time from minutes to seconds. And that saves a precious minutes of customers who are calling up and staff who are at the front line answering the phones and dealing with high volumes. Some other examples that we've seen has been Bank of America as one who've just eased the process of accessing government relief or support from institutions. They rolled out a program where you could, as simply as with 2 clicks, defer your credit card payments for a period of time. Now, 25,000 people took that offer up in 2 days, and they did that online. There's a number of processes that could be digitised, and I think the key is to making sure that they get digitised end to end, and that partway through, people don't need to stop, call a contact centre, and face a roadblock.
And like you say, there's a lot of developments that have been introduced now. How can banks ensure their employees are getting the optimum experience from work and perform to their highest standard?
Employees are really at the front line when it comes to financial services. They're performing heroics on a daily basis, and they really need to be enabled and empowered to do the job and do it well. We find that employee experience is quite often forgotten or sometimes neglected. But banks, particularly financial services institutions, really have focused around communication and collaboration, and we think that is going to be even more crucial as we see this pandemic clearly carry on. But it's going to have, we believe, long-term effect in the way people work. And some of these investments around communication and collaboration tools in particular, new ways of working, and investment programs in people's well-beings and looking for signs of fatigue, we think are long-term programs that are going to be here to stay. Some additional areas that I think banks are also facing off into are systems and processes that have in the past been cumbersome and complex, have had manual process steps that have become part of it. These are things that need to be addressed to really help optimize the employee experience and enable them to work effectively and efficiently from wherever they choose, whether it's their home, their office, or in a hybrid environment where they may work from multiple locations through the course of the week.
Okay, that's great. Thanks so much for joining us today, Saurabh.